I will be describing the murder of Yvonne Leroux in detail, and the reason I'm doing that is because everything I say is correct and can be confirmed if anybody is able to do that. I first went to the police in 2000 about concerns about another girl who was killed in 1972 at a beach in Lake Simcoe, and next thing I know, David Norris was digging a hole in the woods nearby. I wanted to find that girl. The police, instead of investigating in 2000, degraded me, discredited me, got rid of me. There was absolutely no investigation. In 2001, I spoke to some police from Caledon area, and they did ask me a lot of questions about Yvonne Leroux. At that time, they should have and ought to have known. They still did not do anything. I wanted to prove what I said, and I thought that if what I said was investigated, it would be shown to be true. I then went to the police in Toronto to at least investigate what happened to me. They came in to arrest him, and he committed suicide. The last conversation I had with Mr. Norris was I confronted him over the girl killed in Lake Simcoe, and I told him I knew where she was buried. It wasn't until 2005 I turned over the weapon that killed Yvonne to York Region Police, and then they finally woke up and said, okay, we do have a problem here. At that time they offered to help me find the area where that girl was buried, and then they took serious interest in it. Unfortunately, by then it was too late. Mr. Norris had died, and I believe all they could do at that time was to prove their negligence in the whole thing from the beginning. They have lied, they've been caught lying, and they maliciously slandered me. At the time that they were slandering me in public, they were talking to me, telling me that they're going to help me find that girl, they're going to come up with a ground penetrating machine to help me dig the area. I had actually found the area where I believe that girl is buried, definitely the area where he was digging in the woods. He definitely was digging in the woods there. I want to know what he was digging. The police at the time of publicly slandering me was offering to come up there with ground penetrating machines, and after 5 years of investigating the murder of Yvonne Leroux, they were telling me that they don't know if he did it or not. Before that, they would told somebody else that what I said was plausible. They also lied about the weapon I gave them at first, telling me that it was consistent with their wounds, to telling somebody else I never gave them any such thing, to finally telling me that they just didn't do proper autopsy photos at the time. The police have been caught definitely lying and deliberately falsely slandering me in court and committing perjury. The reason for that is because they messed up. They messed up from the beginning, and I was right all along. So I will describe the murder of Yvonne, and that is for the reason to defend myself. I have been correct. I think that they should be held accountable, and if anybody can find out any of this information, I'll be shown to be correct. In 1972, we did meet my dad, David Norris, and I did meet Yvonne Leroux. It was during the day. It was in a public park. I was told to wait by the car. I did not go into the park, and I couldn't really see what was going on there. The way that the car was parked, there was trees, evergreen trees. I couldn't even see what was going on in the park, but I could hear that there was something going on in the park. Somebody with loudspeakers and some noise. David came back to the car with Yvonne, and the first thing he told her was, see, I told you my daughter was here. And when I first met her, she didn't look tough. She did look like she had some street smarts. She had on the white top. I do not believe she got in the car at that time. I do not recall her getting in the car at that time. However, later, my dad was parked in a parking lot, and he was waiting for a girl to come out of a building. A lot of other young people came out first. It was dark by this time. Several young people came out first, went different ways, and then Yvonne came out down the stairs, and he said to me, that's her, and he drove up the car to her. She actually seemed surprised that we were there. She didn't want to get in the car at first, but of course I was in the car, so she felt safe. I will say, and I think this can be verified by anybody else who was in the counseling session with her that night, that she was the last one out. I do not recall anybody coming out after her. Definitely nobody was there to see her get into the car, so I'm going to take a guess that if anybody came out after her, it was quite a while. Definitely enough time for her to come get in the car and not be seen. It'll be verified by anybody else who was there that night with her. We then drove north of Toronto. At the time she was in the car, David was very charming, very nice at first, always asking questions, he always was, and then he turned, same way he turned on the girl at the beach, and indeed he attempted on my life a couple months before Yvonne was killed. He liked the emotional torture, is what I saw him do to both me and Yvonne. Me at the cliff, it was to put me up there, balancing me with one foot on it and telling me how many people have actually been murdered on the cliff and how it's gone down as an accident. With Yvonne, he all of a sudden just changed, his whole demeanor changed, and he said something really sexually provocative and insulting, and she became very angry. She just went back, no, no. And she started calling him a pervert. She started hitting parts of the car. She hit the dashboard. She hit his arm, the steering wheel, and she was hitting and she was demanding to get out of the car. At that time he pulled over, and this was on a country road north of Toronto. It was very dark. He pulled over, she got out of the car, and she was started walking behind the car. He got out at the same time. He took an object from the car that would have been a roe deer antler walking stick he had received from Scotland a couple of months before that. He got out, walked in front of the car, and then along the side and met her at the back. At that time I could see them. They're back further, and she yelled at him saying, "Leave me alone." And he kept on dragging her back to the car. He did successfully drag her back to the car, and it was at the very back of the car. Car was parked on the side of the road. They were on the right hand side, the back of the car, close to the curb. And then he did start hitting her with the walking stick. He hit her several times on the head. She kept on bringing up her hands to defend herself. At one time I saw that her right hand was injured. She had her left hand up and her right hand was hanging limp. She looked more like in shock. She couldn't believe what was happening. She went down, and then the beating was just furious, just furious. I could see him hitting her. I could not see her because it was directly behind the car at this point. And of course the back of the car prevented me from seeing her, but I could see him clearly, and he struck her. It was just a furious, furious assault, many, many times, and furiously while she was down. I was freaking out in the car. I wasn't sure what to do. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do, what do I do? And I got out of the car at one point, and I went around. At that time I saw her, she was laying on her left hand side. So I think I can say that most of the damage to her head happened on the right hand side, and the blood at that time would have rolled from the right hand side to the left. I did not see her face. She was on her left hand side facing away from me. She was more in a fetal position. At that time my dad then started coming towards me. He had the walking stick still in his hand. He held it behind him like that, and he started demanding that I get back into the car, of which I did get back in the car. And as I sat in the car, he was then running around furiously, and he was going into the woods. There was woods and trees, and he started moving stuff around in the woods, and this will be verified. I believe that the cops would have searched that and would have known that whoever killed Yvonne was moving stuff around in the woods. And what I think he was doing was just trying to find branches and everything in which to cover up her body. However, I could see at one point that he was looking around and he got really nervous, He threw the walking stick, what was left of it, he broke it on her. He threw it on the front passenger side. I was still sitting in the back on the driver's side at the whole time. She was originally sitting in the front at the whole time for picking her up. And during this, New York Region Police came to interview me in 2005. At the time I gave them the murder weapon that killed Yvonne. I also described that after I got back into the car, after the vicious beating, that I did not know how Yvonne looked after she was dragged. At that time, the police looked at each other, and I could tell that I had said something that was of interest to them, and only could have known again by somebody who was there. It'd been widely rumored, of course, that she was raped, and widely noted that she was found with her pants down. And what I said is that her pants came down only from being dragged. It was after her vicious beating that he was, of course, out in the woods, and he was gathering up, you know, a lot of stuff. I assumed to put her on top of her body. I'm going to say that he probably meant to drag her off into the woods. He was into the woods, definitely moving a lot of stuff around, and he did drag her. But then, as I said, he looked around really nervously and just got in the car and drove away really quickly. Again, those are only facts that I believe somebody who was there would know. He turned a circle to leave and left very, very quickly. It started snowing immediately after that. I believe it could be confirmed at the time of her death was when the snow started to fall. It being widely rumored that she was raped. Yvonne was not raped. She started fighting in the car. There was no rape. There was no time to rape her. When I phoned the police about Yvonne, the first thing they asked me was she raped? And I said no. I believe if I said yes, they would have come to see me. I believe that was information they held back. All the information I have is true, and if anybody can verify it with details from her murder, it'll be found to be correct. On the way home after killing her, he just started talking to me a lot. He was talking non-stop. I really wasn't listening a whole lot, but the brunt of it was that it was her fault. Shouldn't tell anybody. I was just numb. When we got in, I went right to my bedroom. I believe that my mother was yelling at my dad when he got in. There was a big argument there. I didn't say anything. As I said, it was just a couple months before that both of my parents tried to kill me. I have heard from the internet a lot of people slandering me, saying it's just something I made up. Well, I think from the tape of my mother, she knew very well about the attempt on my life in 1972, so it's not something I just made up now. Although my mother says I told her, I did not. At that time, I just was not able to talk. After Yvonne was killed, I could not talk. I didn't talk at all at that time. And as well, it was really obvious to me when I came back after the attempt on my life that my mother already knew about it. And yeah, it was hell, knowing that both of my parents wanted me dead, and I think I just kind of died very much inside. Not me who's ever changed my statements. Everything I said, I've always said all along. It is the police who have changed their statements, and the police have been all over the place. It is also me that's not lied. They have, and have been caught, and even going to extremes of lying in court, as well as deliberately lying about everything I said to slander me. And I believe the reason for doing that is because they messed up. They messed up a long time ago by not investigating it, and now I think they just want to protect themselves. I do stand by everything I've said and stand by it 100%. But about Yvonne, both Yvonne and I deserve a whole lot better than what we got from the police. God, I like Yvonne for her fighting in her strength, and a lot of times that helps me out a whole lot. When I say this is really hard, I look at what Yvonne went through and I says, okay, I got it in me to go a little bit more. So I'm not going to give up, but I'm not going to back down. And yeah, Yvonne deserves a hell of a lot more, and so do I.